Hey folks, it's Coco and One Love. We're talking about squatting today. Why are we talking about squatting? Because squatting is present throughout your whole day, all of your life. You need to hone the position and the movement, and you need to hone it to the point that you own it. A lot of you guys are kind of iffy and shaky about squatting. If you feel pain during squatting, it's usually because you're squatting the wrong way. We're going to talk about squatting, and we want to make sure that you guys practice squatting without any weight first, and really understand how the movement you go through the movement, understand the sequencing of the movement before you add weight, and kind of get into the more advanced movements. So squatting is present through our daily life and is present also in the exercise environment. We need to make sure that we hone both. We need to be aware of squatting in both points in our lives so that they can feed in vice versa, and they correlate and they help each other out so that we are developing a functional movement pattern. So think about throughout the day, you're standing up, you're sitting down, in the neural developmental sequence, which is us actually coming up from laying down position and getting our way all the way up into a standing and walking position. It kind of explains the way kids are grow and develop. We see kids coming from a crawling position to one leg up, two legs up, hanging out here, playing here, and then finally standing. We also see people in several other countries not only eating or resting, sitting, and doing the other duties that you do in this position, like this as well, and this is in modern day time. So this is a position that we really need to get into and work on all the time. So it's also a position that's going to be fundamental to the point where once you kind of learn how to squat the right way, it's going to transfer into other exercises. When you think about stepping up a stair, stepping up a box, jumping on a box, lunging, all these are kind of different versions of a squat. And of course, it's going to transfer to several other ones that I can't name. But let's talk about the squat. So when you get set for a squat, you're about shoulder width or maybe a little bit outside of shoulder width distance with your feet. Your feet are always pointing straight. The reason why we want to cultivate feet pointed straight is that that's how we actually walk. That's how we're going to run. So we want to make sure that we're using our hips the same way we're going to get into other activities. But also, what that does is it allows us to use our arches, and our arches are a big part of creating hip torque here in the hip, allowing more power, more stability in the hip. Okay, so basically we're in this nice straight foot position, shoulder width. We're going to go through the bracing sequence. Our butt gets glued tight. Our rib cage is set down. Our abs are tight. Now we're going to screw our feet away like we're screwing our feet away from our body. But what that does is activates the arches, and then what that does is really a cue to activate the torque in our hips. We set our shoulders back and down. Okay, and now we're going to descend. And as we descend, we're going to flare our knees laterally, and what that does, it emphasizes more hip torque. Hip torque is just going to allow us to create more rotational force in our hip, creating more power, more force output. Okay, so here we go. We're going down, hip crease below the knee. And if you notice here, my shin remains vertical. We want to make sure that we keep a vertical shin as much as possible. We never want the knee to go over the foot, over and beyond the toes. And then as we come back up, we're driving those knees out again, keeping that torque, and we're coming up to a full standing position. Let me show you this in the side view here. Getting set up the same way, feet shoulder width apart. We're going to go through the bracing sequence, squeeze the butt, pull down the rib cage, set the abdomen. Now we're going to screw our feet into the ground. We're going to set our shoulders back and down, and we're going to reach our hamstrings away from our body and descend. And if you notice here, my shin is nice and vertical. As much as I can, of course I can drive it back more, and I'm keeping a nice flat and straight back. And I come back up, boom, all the way up to standing. Let's see those in action again. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? Of course, we want to kind of work on that portion, just the air squat alone. Of course, the squat gets more advanced and is in other movements, but we want to make sure we get that sequencing down before we start loading weight onto our system. Of course, that's all going to stay the same. The only thing that's going to change is the demand on our upper torso, whether we're in a back squat, in a front squat, in an overhead squat. And that's just going to change the demands on the upper torso, but everything else will remain the same. The sequencing will remain the same. The positioning, for the most part, will remain the same. So let's work on that, hone those, get comfortable with that, and then once we get comfortable with that, we can kind of transfer into more complex and more demanding exercises. That's about it. If you guys have any questions, let us know. It's Coco One Love, Conquering Lion. Like us, love us, share us, and subscribe, baby. Conquering Lion, much love. One love. Do good.